Since you're also the chair of the delegation to North Macedonia and of course also a member on the committee for Bosnia and Herzegovina and Kosovo, what future do you see for the European Union integration when it comes to the Western Balkans? And here very specifically also, what can the conference on the future of Europe contribute when it comes to this area, especially for example also since many Western Balkan countries also have been claiming that they also want to be part of this conference. So what about the conference? How can it, with its bottom-up approach, contribute, and what is the possible solution when it comes to the direct neighborhood in the Western Balkans?
First of all, I'm not considering the Western Balkan as foreign policy, because the Western Balkan is Europe. So therefore it is maximal neighborhood policy. I would also say it is a policy of bringing those countries and the people of those countries into the European Union in the future. So I would say the Conference of the Future of Europe is also a good chance to integrate already policymakers, civil society, NGOs and other people from the Western Balkan states into the discussions which we have, which we will have the next months or years to come. So therefore I'm very much supporting that also the countries of the Western Balkan can send people by being part of the Conference of the Future of Europe, because we have to see, we started now these negotiations for becoming member. One country is already a little bit longer ago, some others are in the process that it should start soon. Some others still have some difficulties and are not on the list formally of accession countries, but for the future, for sure, they will be. And I'm very often asked why you think this is important. Isn't Europe complicated enough? Why to take another countries, which makes maybe things even more complicated? So we have to say, yes, Europe needs to become more easy in decision making. We have to clarify a lot of things. If we take the Western Balkans in or not, we have to clarify them anyway. And secondly, it is about the people. And when we look at the countries, like you mentioned, for example, Kosovo, extremely young country, young population, North Macedonia the same. And people want to be part of the European Union in the one or the other way. So I think it is always good to start a process which gives people the hope and the accession. There are a lot of issues already now on the table, like visa liberalization, for example, for Kosovo, starting the negotiation talks for North Macedonia and Albania and others. And this could also give perspective to the countries. And also the process of becoming member of the European Union, of course, is also a process of setting up functioning state structures, modernizing and making reforms in the jurisdictional system, in the economic system, in the labor market, in the education, in the environmental issues. So I think it is at the end, it's in the interest not only of those countries, of all of us. It's not only about stability, but it's also about other life issues.
Since we have been mentioning before also the European Union as a geopolitical one, and especially also when we look at the region these days, there are other external actors, namely especially Russia, the Emirates, and China. And now all together with the pandemic. So the question would be when it comes to this vaccination, so this geopoliticalization of the supply of vaccines, for example, is now something which probably people did not really see to be part of reality today. So the question would be, how should the European Union in the future, in the next 5 to 10 years, also deal with this issue, with the other political actors, external actors in the region, and probably also in line of how the future of Europe conference could also be somehow contributing, since the European Union, as we know, is not really that strong when it comes to public diplomacy, but you also mentioned that the future of the region is within the European Union. Just take a look at the map. So about how can the European Union in the future position itself in the context of the other external actors in the Western Balkans region.
You mentioned that there is other actors also trying to be active there. And this is true, and we are witnessing not only economical in terms of investment and other issues, also that recently in some of the elections also there was intervention in the sense of fake news, steered propaganda, and this kind of interventions in democratic processes, which we don't like. And I think is also we have to understand that there is interest. Secondly, you mentioned the vaccination and COVID issue. And I think it was a mistake that Europe, the European Union, let the Western Balkan state, let's say, quite alone with the COVID issue. The countries in the region could apply for the global exchange house for vaccination, but I would have preferred that the European Union, when they were ordering all its doses and having the negotiations with the pharmaceutical companies, also included already the Western Balkan states. This would have been much more helpful, but honestly saying, we know how difficult this discussion already was in the European Union, how much intervention between the European Union member states already happened, and how jealous everybody is about who gets how much. So at the end, maybe this was the reason also why it did not work. But we have to understand also there is so much interlinkage, so that when there is other actors being active, we have to say at the end it's still the European Union. So if you go on one of the main squares of one of the capitals and ask in front of the university young people, you're studying and where you want to make your external semester, they would mention some of the European Union universities, and they will probably not mention Moscow or even further far away states. So the life lies in the European Union. There is much interlinkage. There is a migrant society. There is cultural linkages. So I think we should not be scared by other foreign actors, but we should be aware that, of course, the pro-European orientation is also something which we have to deliver at the end, in the sense of making investment, making progress, being politically active, being interlinked in the area. And maybe we give too much space to other actors because we are too lazy on these issues.
Thank you very much. You mentioned fake news, which is a big problem, of course, also within the European Union, but especially, of course, also in the region, in the Western Balkan region. And also when it comes to the conference on the future of Europe, it has this bottom-up approach. So the question would be, how important is civil society, and how are the expectations from your point of view, from a member from the European Parliament, when it comes to this conference on the future of Europe? What are the expectations? What can it deliver?
I had very high expectation, because I see the problems which we have to tackle in Europe is how we make decisions, how we make the European Union more social and more giving the answers on the problems which people expect us. To put to clarification a lot of these issues. And then the process started, and it started with a big fight between the member states, the parliament, and other institutions, how it is even organized. So I was already a little bit disappointed, because if it already the starting is such a mess, how then at the end could be delivered also good answers, which I think for good answers also we need to make a big step forward. And what I realized is that a lot of governments in the member states are not willing to make any big step forward. So this we will see. But then it is even more important to put in the civil society, the NGOs, this what you call bottom-up approach, to start a debate simply what people expect. But then we will end up in the end that people are not interested in institutions, in the sense of who is deciding which, what, and how much weight has one vote, and this kind of issues. But people are interested in real answers to the real questions. And this, I think, is quite obvious what are the problems. In our societies, the division between the poor and the rich gets bigger. The economic and labor market problems are big after COVID. What we see is that we need a new solidarity, and also what we see is that technology like digitalization is driving a lot of economic prosperity, but also giving a lot of questions. So we have to give answers on this. We see big companies, they are even sometimes stronger than some member states. They can, let's say, do what they want. So also therefore we need a regulatory answer. And then we have the big climate issue, where we also know one member state alone cannot solve the issue. So it has to have a common approach. And having said all this, I hope that we will deliver on this. But for this, it is important also for all the policy makers in the European Union, which is not only the members of the parliament, but to listen also carefully what people really want and what decisions they want. And then I think it should be easy to draw the line what institutions we need.